because it's such an emotional event that's occurred, there's a lot of things at play here. Race, age, these are college kids, the community, so many things. I try to strip away the subjective stuff. I just look at it objectively. I try to just analyze it for what we have, not what we think it is. The call is consistent with one of the narratives.
Willie D. Live.
The moments before some of Nolan Wells' friends left Horn Island off the coast of Mississippi. A mom of one of the friends last week said the group left without Nolan when their boat began malfunctioning.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
NBC News has obtained audio as part of a records request that details the group calling for towing assistance.
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Nolan went to the island in a boat with friends on July 4th. His body was found 2 days later. It's unclear whether Nolan was with anyone when he disappeared. This as the search for answers in the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells continues. His family's attorneys saying they'll now work side by side with investigators to analyze Nolan's cell phone.
So everybody will be able to see at the same time what the cell phone has.
Nolan's parents previously said they believe content may have been deleted from the phone. The case will be presented to a Mississippi grand jury once the investigation is complete. The local district attorney telling NBC News that's a standard practice for cases with an unknown cause of death and not an indication that a crime was committed. Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter says his team has interviewed several witnesses and is working to get answers for the family. Do you feel like you're getting useful information that's been helpful to figuring out what happened?
Yes, sir. We're getting very useful information, and we appreciate the public coming forward with what they've had, and we don't want them to be hesitant.
Today, the family met with the district attorney for more than an hour.
It was just a meeting where she talked about the process. She didn't tell us any information about the investigation. We're trying to get to those answers.
As tonight, Nolan's family prepares to hold his funeral next week.
He would not want us to be sitting around crying and eating, and so what we're going to do is kind of have a party to celebrate him.
Tom, the state and independent autopsy results are not back yet. The family attorney says he does plan to release those details when he has them.
All right, Jack, what's your first thoughts on this newly released audio?
So the audio, regardless of what you think of the narrative being put forth, it's consistent with the narrative, okay? So it's consistent with, as I've read in other articles and other interviews and videos, it's that Nolan went to this party with a first group of friends on this first boat. Some of the stories I've seen, there are two kind of narratives out there. One narrative is Nolan decided to stay behind when this first boat was leaving. This first boat seemed to acknowledge it was taking on water. I guess it was a rental boat, and they wanted to get it back to the mainland before they wouldn't be able to. So the first group of friends got on the boat and returned back without Nolan. That's one of the stories I've seen just from reports that have come out from friends, from other young adults that were there. And we can get into why he may have stayed, later. So now, just listening to the audio, there are some things that I notice are there and are not there. The caller seems relatively calm, and you don't hear anything going on in the background. These are all young adults. The reality is a young man is not with us anymore. And if you are unfortunate enough to witness something like that, that is traumatic. I mean, no one's ready for that. And you don't hear anyone fussing in the background. It's a very calm call. It's very quiet, saying, hey, we're taking on water. We're fine. We're coming back. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to accept what's being said, but the way it's being said, I don't know that these young adults, 18, 19-year-olds, and partying, that they are equipped to fabricate a real-time event. And it's consistent with the narrative that the boat was taking on water, had issues, was brought back, docked, was taken out of dock, and then the owner of the boat is also cooperating with law enforcement. So if you are of the belief, if you accept that no one stayed behind, the audio is consistent with that. And if you are unsure, which is very fair, because a lot of the information evidence has not come out yet. If you're unsure, or if you just don't accept that, you think he was on the boat, it's such a quiet call that I can't rule anything out. I was not there. I'm an outside observer just like you. I can only analyze what's we're being fed. And because it's such an emotional event that's occurred, there's a lot of things at play here. Race, age, these are college kids, the community, so many things. I try to strip away the subjective stuff. I just look at it objectively. I try to just analyze it for what we have, not what we think it is. The call is consistent with one of the narratives.
How come they didn't ask the caller how many people are on the boat? Because that seemed like an obvious question to me. Like, if I'm not even a 911 operator or a boat, maritime dispatcher, but I would say, well, how many people are on the boat? Because I need to know what kind of boat I need to bring to rescue y'all, right?
Great. So your concern is excellent, and it deviates just slightly from what the question would be. The most direct answer to your question, I don't know why dispatch did not ask the question. We're speculating, we can guess. And we're all Monday morning quarterbacking. We can all replay what's happened and say, you could have done this, you should have gone left when you went right. It's very easy for us to do that. I don't know why dispatch didn't ask the persons. What they did ask was, is everyone 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, and the 6 or 7 seems to be that number, if it was 6 or 7, depending on if you believe Nolan was there. But was everyone okay? That answer came back, yes, everyone is fine. Now, to your point, maybe they should have asked, how big is the boat? How big is it? What kind of boat you want? Oh, I'm a dinghy. It's like a 4-person dinghy, or we're on a mini yacht or something, or it's a catamaran versus a single hull. But also maybe because they called it in, but ultimately did not receive assistance. Why didn't they receive assistance? A different question. But the boat made it back independently. It was taking on water. It appears, if you accept the call for what it is, they were giving notice, look, we're having trouble, we're making it back, but we're here, in case the scenario could have been now the boat gets stranded midway. Right. And I don't know what the communication systems were on the boat. But those are good questions. Maybe because it's their protocol, because there was no one that was said to be injured or said to be in peril. There was no distress in the call. The dispatchers listening to it like we are. And because they had nothing more that they were asked to do, right? They could have gone, maybe to say, why didn't they go? You're right. These are kids on a boat. Send someone out anyway, right? That's what we pay tax dollars for. They didn't. And that's a fair question. And it would have helped to answer, was Nolan on the boat or not, right? It's a third party. Without someone else being there, we can't say for sure. Again, if you're questioning what's being given to us so far, we're asking these questions in part now because we've learned someone has passed. Someone's not with us anymore. This is an 18-year-old young man. That's tragic. But if it had just been the boat took on water and got back and we're not talking about it today, maybe no one questions why more wasn't done because it wasn't given as an emergency situation.
Yeah, and we're gonna have, there's gonna be many questions regarding the audio in the coming days. So I don't want to belabor this. Let's get into the GPS data.
In the Nolan Wells case we've been following.
Yeah, our CBS News partners revealing some new GPS data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, tracking the movements of the boat Nolan Wells was on before he disappeared July 4th.
Will Polston joins us now live from the boat launch with more details. Good morning to you, Will.
Hey, good morning, Bill and Brandy. Good morning, everybody joining us at home. That's right, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources releasing the GPS data of where the boat that Nolan Wells was on July 4th and its whereabouts on that day, just to kind of narrow down that timeline a little bit more. Here's what we know from the data. 9:56 a.m., the boat left land and then went towards Horn Island, which it arrived around 11:14 a.m. Then the GPS data says that the boat left the island around 4:31 p.m. before traveling into Fort Bayou and returning to the dock at 6:06. Later that night, the boat went to the boat launch here at Fort Bayou and was pulled out of the water and taken back to the owner's home in Biloxi. Now, a DMR report also says that the owner of the boat, his mother, and one other person with Wells are all cooperating with the investigation. Now, this doesn't necessarily point to one person or point to anything in particular, but now there's concrete evidence of when and where the boat was at what times. We have heard reports that the boys left the island right around at 4:30, and now that's starting to, that is being backed up now. We'll see exactly what this does for the investigation as time continues. Live in Ocean Springs, Will Polson, WLOX News Now.
So you just heard the report about the GPS. How important is the GPS data to the investigation?
I think no matter what is important, it's important because we're still establishing credibility of everyone involved. We're still establishing consistently of what's been told to authorities as we're going on. So whether or not, even if, again, as I said before, even if we maintain, if you choose to believe Nolan wasn't on the first boat, we want to know everyone's being honest, everyone's being forthright, and it's important because, if you are found to lie about one thing, you'll lie about anything else, right? And so it helps to corroborate and to establish who we're dealing with in addition to what did or did not happen. So I think it's really important.